Oh, I thought I did. Okay. So I have to do it again. Good Grand Rising. This is Rise Up with Blooming Lotus. And today is Monday, January 16th, 2023. I am Danyelle Claxton, and my special guest today is Miss Lottie Ellington.
Good morning.
Yay. Welcome.
Thank you.
So good morning, Grand Rising. Lottie, I've known about you because I've dabbled in a little bit of the burlesque world, and I would have to say it's one of the most funnest ways of self-expression of beauty and sensuality. And it reminds me of old school of my grandparents in that era, that 50s era. And it's just something about dressing up, being pretty that's just makes you feel wonderful. But I do like what is it? How what's the word? I'm like elegant the burlesque scene actually is compared to the other scenes, all the other scenes that we have going on out here. But do tell us a little bit about yourself and, what it is, what's your day job and how you got into this and what makes you stay fabulous in this world.
Oh, um, Lottie Ellington, originally from Detroit, Michigan, but was kind of birthed. Lottie was basically birthed in Virginia. And then I came back here a few years ago and have really enjoyed the Michigan burlesque scene. I got my name. My name, Lottie Ellington, is a combination of two names, Tony Elling and Lottie the Body. And those are two Black Detroit burlesque legends. I found out about them while I was researching, trying to figure out my own name, and came across an article with Metro Times Dispatch written by Sparkly Devil. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. They had Black burlesque in Michigan. I don't know why. I thought that there wouldn't be Black burlesque in a place where you have Black people. Other than the fact that, erasure is a real thing in burlesque and in burlesque history. And so I was kind of like, oh my goodness, of course we're here. And so I took part of each name. So I took Lottie's first name, and then I took technically Tony's entire name, and put them together and came up with Lottie Ellington as a way to honor the foremothers that came before me in Black burlesque in Detroit. And so that's how I came up with my name.
I was going to ask you about Lottie the Body. I used to perform with a band that would be at the club. What was the club that she was at?
She did
I know she
had
was
a couple,
several, but there was one main one on the west side of Detroit.
I know that the one I remember, I know I had seen some footage of her. There's a club downtown that they recently recent as in the last 5 years reopened, that she remembered working at. But Lottie did a lot of work. Lottie was able to do a lot of work in Detroit, in the Detroit metropolitan area. And she was absolutely amazing. We lost her just before COVID in 2020, and I think it was February.
Yeah.
We lost Lottie, and I did get a chance to spend some time with her. She was amazing. She had really great stories also. We still have Tony Elling with us, and so I visit. That's my partner in crime, Tony. So I visit her all the time in nursing home, and we hang out, and sometimes we'll go live. Now that the COVID restrictions have eased up, I'm able to do a little bit more with her to kind of keep her connected to the community.
Wow. I know when I got started into burlesque, sitting down and doing the research was absolutely amazing, because that's one history they don't teach you in the history books. And what gets me is the beauty of these women back in that day. These were natural, literally, really natural beauties, with natural booties and boobs and beautiful
Mhm.
bodies. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just like, you sit here like, whoa. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the actress that played Aunt Esther, I can't remember her real name, but she was a burlesque. She started out in burlesque, didn't she?
Yes.
Okay, that was an interesting fact to sit there and find out. And was like
LaWanda Page.
Rhonda Page. I was like, oh, um, there's a certain, tell us the difference between because I don't know if some people know the difference between, I guess, straight up stripping and burlesque, because I guess that's what you have to compare it to nowadays. It's just downright stripping and burlesque. What's the difference between the two genres?
Very little. The differences, in terms of what it is, again, there's very little difference. The differences come basically when you talk about the audience and the intention. So in strip club or strip club culture, the audience is usually predominantly male. The clubs are male run, male centered. And so that gives a different gaze. Also, because of the laws in place that govern strip clubs, there's very little or no actual stripping. Whatever state you come onto the stage in is the same state of dress that you have to leave with. And those are because the laws were relegated to try to phase burlesque out. And so with strip club stripping, it's usually, again, you come in whatever, if you're going to come out in a robe and your G-string and your your bra, generally when you leave, the most that you could have taken off would be maybe that robe. That legally, that is where the laws are. Whereas with burlesque, because burlesque is more of a female run, female identified, female led art form, generally perform in theaters, art spaces. So the intention, the gaze, is very different. So our gaze is generally female led, female identified. So because we're female led, female identified, we like the glitz and the glamour. We want the hair and the the lashes and all of those, and the glamour. Whereas in a male dominated strip club, they are generally performing for the male gaze. So there's less of those elements and there's more just sort of a little more naked, raw nakedness.
Mm-hmm.
Not that burlesque doesn't get raw naked, but
Right.
just that is the intention. So it's mainly just a matter about the intention and the audience is what makes them different. So when you have ladies, we're going to be like ladies and we're going to be ladies and we want to be yes. And when you have dudes, it's like give it, because that's what the audience asked for. And so we are not specifically different, it's not really much of a difference. It's just what is your audience? And so when you look at your audience, that's kind of what tells you what type of performance you're going to do. Because in strip club culture, they have like those feature acts, the feature dancer. And the feature dancer in a strip club will very often do a lot of burlesque type things. They're going to have the theatricality. They're going to have the big props. They're going to have, they'll have the dressing gown because they are a feature. Whereas if they are a club stripper, they may not have, the audience isn't expecting those things and doesn't want those things from them. And so if they try to give the audience those things, generally they don't make any money. So it's about what I need to do to make my money. So if I need to make my money, I need to be, don't stop, get it,
So I'm gonna be honest, and then I'm biased because when I go to a strip club, I'm like, it's almost like I want to be entertained. I do pay attention to the girls who actually put forth some effort into their look, into their costume, into all of that, because to me, it plays, it's a form of entertainment. It's all a form of entertainment. And you can tell the ones that actually are there because, you know, they're actually into it versus the ones that's there because, okay, I got to pay this bill. I'm just doing this. I'm thinking about 20,000 other things. I'm not giving necessarily a performance because I actually tip the ones that actually go the extra mile. You got extra glitter on your boots, I'm gonna tip you. You know what I'm saying? You coordinated your whole outfit. Granted, it's not a whole lot left to the imagination, but it's like as an entertainer, I like to be entertained. So it's like I tip you. Um, I feel like there's a difference because there is a little bit more theatrics when it comes to burlesque because you are a character, you are whoever it is that you want to be, and you're actually playing with the sensuality, the raw sensuality of the emotion of not just yourself, but also the audience as well. And culturally, there's a difference. But I love the self-expression. The biggest thing is the creativity and the self-expression of just being feminine, period. It's something that I absolutely, absolutely love. And like you said, I didn't know it was a big burlesque scene, Black burlesque scene here in Michigan until I stepped into the scene. And it's like, oh, there's just like with the belly dancing. It's like, oh, we're here. We're hiding, but we're here. We're here. It's like, okay.
And I don't think again, not so much that we hide, but again, erasure is a thing. And so like, as I'm also a burlesque instructor. And so when I talk to my students, when I talk to specifically my BIPOC students, which would be Black, Indigenous, people of color students, I tell them, when you're there, when you're at a show, when you're at a festival, get in the pictures. Don't hide. Don't be in the back. Be in the middle. Don't be on the sides. Do your best to be right smack dab in the middle, because people are good for cropping. They'll crop out and get just the people that they want in the photos. And so having yourself in those photos, having yourself in the middle, that makes it, one, easier for other people to find you. That makes it easier for the next generation that comes up to find you, and to know that they were represented. Because again, whatever it is that is going on in this country, if there are Black people there, then we are doing it.
Let me ask you a question. How, especially on today, because today is Martin Luther King Day, we are recognizing, his birthday and the significance and importance of his contribution to the civil rights movement and just overall the Black experience overall. One of the things that came out of, quote unquote, us actually being segregated is the fact that we had our own. We were forced to have our own businesses, our own clubs, our own entertainment centers, everything, back in the day. And how important is it to still have it, to preserve history of our burlesque presence, from back in the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, even up until now?
It's very important, especially like it's key and it's vital. It's very important because again, erasure, the idea that we didn't do it. We don't do it. It's not a thing that Black girls do. And as long as people are able to as long as the history isn't easy to access, then it's easy to forget. It's easy to ignore. If you go to Google and type in burlesque, generally what comes up is, honestly, what immediately comes up is thin, pale, blonde brunette.
Like Betty Page or somebody like that.
Betty Page, Tempest Storm, Dita Von Teese. You have to scroll down, or you have to put in Black burlesque, and then you'll still get that first hints. You'll have Black burlesque thinking burlesque with people with Black hair. So you'll still get Betty Page, but then if you scroll down just a little, and that's all it takes, just a little scroll down, you'll see Pearl Noir, Jeez Louise, Egypt Black Nile, Jezebel Thunder. You'll see those other names and you're like, oh, wow, who are these people? Those will be your contemporary people. These are people that are active now. Then you have to go down, you say, you type Black burlesque history, then you'll go down a little bit further and you'll see LaWanda Page, Tony Elling, Topsy, Tangeray, Tina Pratt. So you'll see all of these additional names that will come up, and then you're like, oh my God, I didn't know. So having the more that we do to bring what we do to the forefront and keep it in the name, in the minds of people, that tends to be the better. Because again, human beings are at their core lazy. They don't want to do extra work. So if I have to do an extra click or type in extra words to find Black burlesque performers, generally people are just not going to do it. They're going to type in burlesque. Oh, look, burlesque. Yay. Oh, I got to type in Black burlesque. Oh, them extra letters is killing me. And so then they don't do it. So then it was time for them to do their research project or to do their documentary or for them to do an article about burlesque. They're like, well, this is what I have, without having taken that extra step to say, oh, there was more. There was Asian burlesque. There is Mexican burlesque. There is indigenous burlesque. Like we have all of these.
There's drag burlesque.
There's drag burlesque. There's boylesque. Like we've got it all in here, but you have to take the next step. What am I looking for? And then it goes there.
I have to interrupt you. I paid for the upgrade yesterday. I looked and in my bank, they took it out twice, but they did not upgrade me. So in about 4 minutes, they're going to cut us off. So just log back in, please. And when we log back in, Evelyn, you have a question, you'll be able to ask your question then. So I don't want to cut you off. Sorry, Lottie.
Okay, thank you. One of the things that I know for sure is that it was really cool to find out that our civil rights leaders, the ones that, you know, did all the political things that they did, I think I found out a juicy tidbit that Martin Luther King did support, you know, the Black burlesque dancers. That when I say that, you know, he was at the club, which is cool to me because that really humanizes him as a person. And I can see that being everything that we were doing back in the day, I can actually see that from the stories that you collected from. And I asked this a question again, if we get cut off, because I know you sat down with some of the burlesque legends of the past. Do they ever mention stories of meeting, you know, Dr. King or other civil rights leaders of that particular time?
Yeah, all the time. It was a big, small circle. So in terms of, again, we had specific places that we could go and specific places that we could perform. So what we still call the Chitlin circuit. So the same Chitlin circuit that we used to entertain was the same Chitlin circuit that preachers used to preach in, and the same Chitlin circuit that the civil rights movement hit to try to spread the word. So it's the same circle. And so you would also as a great, you know, marketer, NAACP, Dr. King knew, all right, if all of the people are going to be at the juke joint on Friday night, then I need to be at the juke joint on Friday night so that I can give my word to the people. I can tell people about the civil rights meeting that's coming up, that's going to be at the church on Sunday. So you go to where the people are. And if the people are at the club or the juke joint, then that's where you go. And while you're there, you see some entertainment, you meet some people, you interact with the performers, because the performers are then going to take that information, and when they travel to the next city, they're going to take that information with them. So we had our own network that we could work within to get information passed and get things, and people could learn.
Wow. Awesome. I'm trying to think. Was this a lot? Oh, okay. So how did you get into the burlesque scene, period?
Okay. We're at 125. Do we want to?
Yeah, I was about to say, before you go into that, let's just go ahead and log out and come right back in.
Right.
Okay.